All right, today we're pulling back the curtain on something fascinating. We're not looking at a specific disease, but at the very systems that are designed to protect us from them. Think of it as a health checkup, but for our public health defenses. And that brings us to the big question, right? After global scares like SARS and avian influenza, we just can't afford to hope our warning systems are working. We have to know. So how do we actually measure the strength of that shield? Here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll stick with that health checkup idea. Then, we'll get super clear on two key terms, monitoring and evaluation. After that, we'll dive into the rules of the game, the tools they use called indicators, what makes a good one, and then we'll wrap up with why all of this is absolutely critical for keeping us all safe. Let's really lean into this analogy. Imagine a country's public health system is a person. You wouldn't wait until you're seriously ill to see a doctor, would you? Of course not. You get checkups. That is exactly what this is all about. Preventative care for the very systems that protect all of us. Now, at the heart of this whole defense network is the word surveillance. And let's be clear, this isn't about spying. It's about systematically collecting and analyzing health data. And it has two massive jobs. First, to be our early warning system for outbreaks, and second, to tell us if our health programs are actually, working. So how do officials do this health checkup? Well, they use two main approaches, monitoring and evaluation. They sound kind of similar, I know, but they play very different complementary roles. Let's get into it. First up, monitoring. The words to remember here are routine and continuous. It's like a nurse checking a patient's vital signs every couple of hours. It's that constant day in, day out tracking that makes sure things are on schedule and spots little problems before they become big ones. And then you've got evaluation. This is a much bigger deal. If monitoring is the nurse, evaluation is the doctor doing a comprehensive, deep dive annual physical. It's a periodic, in-depth look to assess the big picture and ask, is this whole system actually doing what we built it to do? So you can see how they work together, right? Monitoring gives you that steady stream of data for the day-to-day. Evaluation then steps back, uses that data and a lot more to make those huge strategic calls about whether the system is truly effective. They really are two sides of the same coin. You need both to have a healthy system. Okay, so you can't just wing this stuff. A proper checkup follows clear rules, and it's the exact same for monitoring and evaluation, or M&E as you'll often hear it called. There's a playbook, a set of principles to make sure the results are actually useful. And some of the biggest rules are just common sense when you think about it. You gotta have a detailed plan. Your goals need to be specific and measurable. You have to know where you started from. That's your baseline data, so you can see if you've improved. And maybe the most important rule of all, you have to actually act on what you find. Otherwise, what's the point? So if we're doing this checkup, what are we actually measuring? I mean, you can't just ask a huge, complex system, how are you feeling? You need specific tools to measure its vital signs. And in the world of M&E, those tools are called indicators. An indicator is really just a variable that shows you how things are changing over time. It's that simple. Just like your blood pressure is an indicator of your health, something like the percentage of outbreak reports submitted on time is an indicator of a surveillance system's health. Now, these indicators are often organized in a way that tells a story, a cause and effect chain. It starts with inputs. That's the stuff you put in, like money and people. Those inputs fuel the processes, like training programs. The immediate results are your outputs, like how many people got trained. The hope is that those outputs lead to better outcomes, like more complete reporting. And the ultimate goal? To see a real impact on public health, like disease rates actually going down. And this is a really key point. When a system is brand new, you're just worried about the basics. Do we have the money? Are we doing the training? That's all input and process. But as the system matures, you start asking bigger questions. Is our data getting better? Are we actually saving lives? The focus shifts to outcome and impact. But here's the thing. You have to be smart about what you measure. Just because you can count something doesn't mean you should. Choosing the right vital signs, the right indicators, is everything if you want an accurate diagnosis. A really good indicator is more than just a number. It gives you information you can act on. It has to be relevant to decision makers. It has to be simple enough that everyone gets it. It needs to be sensitive enough to pick up on small but meaningful changes, and you need to be able to track it over time to see trends. It's about turning data into intelligence. So let's bring this all home. We've talked about monitoring, evaluation, indicators. It can all seem pretty technical, but this is where the rubber meets the road. This whole process is how we turn abstract data into real-world safety. And this is the ultimate payoff. There's a global agreement called the International Health Regulations, which is basically a promise countries make to each other to stop diseases from spreading internationally. A strong M&E system is how a country proves it can hold up its end of the bargain, that it can find and stop threats, not just for its own people, but for all of us. This is the foundation of global health security. So we'll leave you with this thought. The whole point of all this measuring and tracking is to get better. A system we can measure is a system we can improve. We have the tools. The real challenge, then, isn't just about getting the data, it's making sure that our leaders act on what we learn. That's the final, crucial step that turns a good report into a safer world for everyone.